All right, so it's been doing a series on the manipulation of the Trinity, which all stems from this, the consciousness Trinity. So the three parts of our consciousness: actions, thoughts, and emotions. So hopefully I'm going to get to tie this one up and finish off on how we can take back our liberty by using this actual Trinity here to act in the service of that which we're seeking. So before I do that, I still need to go into one other aspect of the mind trick that's played on us, and that is those who define law as land, air, and water. So I just need to find that slide because I've got a bunch of other ones in the way. There you are. So here it is. The Trinity of law, right? So you've been taught this, if you've been paying attention to what certain people say, that there's three jurisdictions. There's land, air, and water. Now, air is the most superior one when you fall into this trap. That's ecclesiastical. Then you've got water, which is the one of commerce. And then you've had land, which is common law. And so this mind structure actually gets you to believe that this is actually a reality in nature. Yet where have you found, when you go up in the air, ecclesiastical law, where has that ever happened, right? It's canon law. I've never seen it in the air, and anyone who has, please come forward and show me how it exists, because I'd love to see it. Now, I've probably spelled ecclesiastical incorrect, so I apologize about that. And then when you go into the water, right, have you actually ever seen commerce, these laws of commerce exist when you're in the water? So whatever water play you have out in the ocean, have you ever seen that happen? I haven't. So again, if you've seen it, show me where it exists in nature. And obviously, common law, they just say exists on the land only. Well, no, it's not true. It exists everywhere, because the common law, what they call common law of land, is just our understanding of natural law. That's all it is. It's the consciousness, awareness, our consciousness, can't say that, awareness of natural law. So if you want to look at it, right, what they've done is they've compartmentalized three aspects of what we see in nature, right? Air, land, and water, like they're separate from each other. But where does that actually exist in reality, right? So when you look at a tree, okay, the tree expires carbon dioxide into the air. And what's it attached to? The land. So you see the connection, how it's all linked? Same with water. Like if rain doesn't fall on the ground, if water doesn't land on there, what's going to grow? So they're all intertwined. So to somehow divide all these three aspects, it's the separate entities that have nothing to do with each other. That's a whole mental construct. This is how one falls into a state of confusion. So this is how it's done. They get you to divide that which is actually integral into every aspect of us, and to divide it and separate it like they've nothing to do with each other, like they're separate, and then have a superior. See, the air is the superior one and the inferior ones are down here, to divide it like that. Nature doesn't have superior and inferior. It's all integrated. There is no one above the other. So this is the real lack of knowledge when you start falling for this stuff. And unfortunately, the people who do push all this stuff, what it does, the ones who learn it, so they probably go into it with the intention to free each other, but then they get caught in how intricate the whole system was constructed, that the ego gets supercharged. And they start falling for the trap of feeling like they're superior because they've worked it out. And then they end up being part of the problem. This is the really sad, tragic part of the whole thing. So let me just bring up the actual, no, I need to get rid of that one. So I'm just going to pause so I can do that. I'll be right back. So let me just bring this slide up. This is what I'm looking for. So law, again, I've done this many times, but let's just go over it just for this. So to put some real context into what a real law is, actually that which you can find in nature, because we exist in nature, nowhere else. So we're only bound to one type of law, and that is that of nature. So an existing condition that is both binding and immutable exists in present and in perpetuity, which means permanent across all our realms. So anything that isn't permanent, that exists, it's a set of conditions, is not a law. It's a mind construct, but it's not law. So anything that we call law has to have some attachment to nature. And so that ecclesiastical stuff and the law of commerce got no attachment to nature at all. And so let me just define natural law. A system of dynamics built into the universe that are binding and permanent. It's very similar to law again. It's the same thing, really. A body of universal spiritual laws that act as the governing dynamics of consciousness. So our behavior is bound, like the consequences to our behavior is bound by this understanding of these spiritual laws that are universal. That's anything that's to do with law is to do with that. And the best version we've come up with that is common law, and that's through our consciousness. The conduit of our consciousness, understanding how to interpret this understanding of the universal spiritual laws into the physical realm. So that's why we can call it a law, because there's some element of permanence there. Okay, so now we need to go into the solution for us, we the people. And this is the Trinity. Actually, no, before I do that, I need to explain sovereignty. So I just got to grab the sovereignty slide. Now, before I grab the sovereignty slide, just wanted to go back into this natural law expression so we can see the opposite side here. This is the fear side, the negative side. And the internal expression is of confusion. So the opposite of that is sovereignty. Yeah. So one who accepts knowledge, so that's acceptance of truth, can only be sovereign. One who denies knowledge can only be confused. And that leads into slavery, external monarchy, which means that you have an external ruler. So remember that pyramid, that Trinity I showed you with the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, that's the external monarchy there. That's how that's created. So only freedom can only come from that positive side of the expressions of natural law. So the external expression, the collective experience of everyone being sovereign is freedom. So now we need to define sovereignty. Here it is. Sovereignty is the positive expression for natural law. It is the openness to understanding and accepting of knowledge of natural law, otherwise known as truth. True understanding harmonizes one's individuated consciousness with the source energy it stems from. So you think about that. That's a really powerful statement if you really allow that to land, right? So it's harmonizing your individuated consciousness with the source energy that created it. So that's how powerful it is to be sovereign. So let me bring up a few more about sovereignty. So yes, I have done this to death. The word sovereign is derived from the Latin adverb super, above, and the Latin noun regnum, rulership or control is what that means, regnum. So sovereign means one who's above the rulership or control of another, hence not a subject or a slave. So if that's what you believe you are, then you are sovereign. But then you've got to be able to show how that happens. And I'll get into that in a moment, but I'll just give you a bit more depth to sovereign, because that's really important to really understand it. A sovereign is a monarch, a single ruler who rules over the kingdom of self. Sovereignty is a state where one controls all three aspects of one's own consciousness. This is where you are in charge, yeah? It's not being manipulated. Because remember what I said in our previous videos, if you want to see a good slave, you'll have them believe they're in charge of their decisions. And then you watch them defend it to their death, but they'll never be aware that they're actually being manipulated. So how can you know that you're in charge of them, right? So this is the three aspects and how to bring them into unity. And only then can you attain mastery of your consciousness. That's the goal here. That's what we are aiming to do, is attain mastery of our consciousness by bringing these three into alignment with that which we seek. So if we are seeking to live in a life of liberty and freedom, what are the actions that we require for that to happen? Yeah, because those actions create the conditions. So how do we go about finding that? That's the real trick here. All right, so sovereignty, again, just a little more depth one more time. It's true self-ownership, self-mastery, self-control, self-discipline, self-love. So these is really important, right? Self-mastery comes through self-discipline, yeah, and self-control, self-love. It's in diametric opposition to slavery, as to be sovereign means you are the ruler of yourself through the mastery of your own consciousness. So there is a Trinity that actually enshrines this, that we actually have in place. We're just not aware that it exists. So let me find it so I can show you. Is it anywhere I can see? Yes, here it is. Now I just need to move a lot of slides that are in my way, just so I can see it, because you guys can't see what I can see, but I've got a screen full of stuff that's in my way. And hopefully I'll get to it very soon. Here we go. So that is the Peoples Trinity. That is trial by jury. Okay, so this is how the mechanism that we created as a people that makes sure that we are our own masters, that we are living with self-discipline, that we are living in self-love and self-control. Because when you're in trial by jury, you're using your consciousness. So it's not so much the fact or what the action that's happened, it's you putting yourself in the shoes of the accused, right? And what it's like to live their life. You were using your consciousness to imagine how it would be if you were in their position, right? If you lived under the same conditions that they lived under. You really need to put yourself in there. That's using your capacity to really feel into a situation, to really work out, was there real malicious intent behind the actions of the one who came before you? Because they're a community member just like you. So you're thinking you've got a lot of responsibility here. So your decision can impact another sentient being's life. And do you really want them to suffer? Especially if it was you in their position that you were doing it, would you want to suffer for what you did based on the conditions that were given to you? That's a real deep consideration that you go into, right? This is that real connection to each other through spirit. That is us being, sovereign. That is us showing self-love. Because if we can show love for ourselves, then we can show love for someone else. So we first need to know what it's like for us to be in those conditions before we can judge someone else. And are they really that different to us? Every action that anyone's capable of, is it not you that are capable of the same actions? For are we not all this, just different physical expressions of the same life force? So are we not all capable of the same things? So this is where we really go into that deep spiritual search when we're in this position. No other situation puts us in this real life position, where our consciousness is fully awake and alert. We've got that hyper focus and attention, because this is the most precious thing that we're protecting here. And that is the quality of each other's life and the conditions by which that needs to happen. So then if we find that there's something not right with the actual legislation that brought that accused to us, then we are bound by our oath to actually annul it, to strike it off the statute books. And that means that a legislation is unjust. And then that moves us over to here, common law private prosecution. That means that any man or woman who was acting in a role in the service of us, who put legislation together, was responsible for it, that became the unjust legislation that brought a member of one of us in front of us. These people who are meant to be acting in the service of us, come stand before us for any malicious intent that they might have had in why they allowed that to go through and pass. And instead of acting in the service of us, they're acting in the harm of us. Now, that is how we attain self-mastery. And there's only one place that this is enshrined, and that's in the 1215 Magna Carta. There's no other documentation that has that. There's no other constitution, because there is only one. All the others were created by Parliament. But this one was created for the people, by the people, because the 1215 Magna Carta is an expression of the way people actually live their lives. The traditions and the customs and the rules they already live by was just enshrined in paper, so on paper or on parchment paper, in a bunch of articles, like 63 of them, so then there could be evidence and it could be proved that this is how we choose to live. There's no other place. So this is the Trinity that changes the whole thing. So this is our Trinity to liberty, our Trinity to freedom, so we can live in divine order. This is how we actually ascend into that space that we all talk about. That everyone talks about the 3D, 5D. Well, this is the mechanism, right, that gets us down this chain: the love, the knowledge, the sovereignty, the freedom, and then the divine order that's required for harmonious coexistence. Just like in a rainforest, there's a divine order there. Everyone knows their place, and every organism knows what it needs to do. Not like we do with the consciousness, but it just has a function, and it goes and does that function. And that's why that ecology can survive and thrive. And that's what we're missing. We're missing that connection to nature, so we can survive in a way where we're thriving. So hopefully that gives you some understanding as to why the 1215 Magna Carta is the people's expression of consciousness, of their divine understanding of law.